Yes.
Can we obtain a copy as quickly as possible of what you provided to comprehensive plans that represented the figures that were the source of your concern, so that we may assess and evaluate that question as well? Would there be any problem in supplying?
No, no.
Okay, so that,
We got them from peer committee, and I'll furnish them to.
so if you must have kept a copy of it.
Oh, yes.
So
I'm sure I did. I'm not looking at one, but I'm sure I got one in the bag.
Okay, so how can we get that from you?
I made it to anybody who want me to, or hand it to anybody who come by my office. You.
The second question is,
Give me just a minute to write down. I'm
Absolutely,
not
I'll
quick as I used to be.
I'll wait. My second question is, you convened a meeting at 10 this morning, correct?
Yes.
And was that meeting announced publicly before it was convened?
No. See, we don't have to do that. That's our regular meeting time, and 10 o'clock in the morning when we get together. And we didn't do anything else except to meet over here and meet this fellow Gates, who the Board of Supervisors didn't know. See, he dealt before with the Board of Education.
You were at the meeting on Monday, right?
Yes, sir.
And you recall that the question was addressed specifically to the board, asking them at what time the issue of whether to hire some outside planning entity, and if so, which entity, and if there was a cost associated, at what cost, were matters that the folks who attended the meeting on Monday, including the representatives of the Tallahatchie County Redistricting Committee, indicated that they were keenly concerned about being able to participate in, observe, find out exactly how the Tallahatchie County Board of Supervisors was going to go about that decision-making process, right? You remember that?
No, that's not exactly right. You may have gathered that as being right. The board has the opportunity, has the duty, authority, whatever you want to call it, to confer with their lawyer about any matter, and to do that privately. This,
Are you saying that the meeting at 10 o'clock was an executive session?
no. When we got together at 9 o'clock, and it was not executive session, we just came just agreed to it. That man called me late one night before last, I believe, and said he had planned to be here at 11 o'clock. He called me and said, I'm going to have to leave early. I said, can I meet with you early? So we set up 9 o'clock.
So you all discussed this as a board at 9 o'clock on Friday morning today?
No.
You didn't discuss it at 9 o'clock today?
Not as, we didn't discuss that at the board. We discussed employing Mr.
Who was present at 9 o'clock?
I believe I was the only one there at 9 o'clock.
So you met with Mr. Gates?
I met with him first, yes. No, we met first in Mr. Taylor's office. That's what it was.
Who's Mr. Taylor?
Sitting right to your left.
I know. What's his capacity?
He's the county administrator.
So you and Mr. Taylor met with Mr. Gates?
Yes, Mr. Gates was in Mr. Taylor's office when I got there.
So, but you and Mr. Taylor met with Mr. Gates, correct?
Yes?
Okay. Was any of the members of the Board of Supervisors present?
Not then, no.
Okay. At what time did you meet with the Board of Supervisors today? At 10 o'clock?
Yes, so they were all here by 10. I don't care what, so I don't know what time it is.
Roughly about 10. You brought this information from the discussion with Mr. Gates and Mr. Taylor to the board around 10.
We were up here, and the clock's an hour wrong, 2 hours wrong in there, but we looked at it and said, actually it's 10 o'clock.
Sometime this morning, you met with the board and shared the information that resulted from the discussion with Mr. Gates and Mr. Taylor and Mr. Taylor's office. Is that correct?
Well, that and Gates came on up here too. He was up here.
Well, Mr. Gates was also there, but I'm saying you met with the board at that time, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Gates also came?
Yeah.
Did Mr. Taylor also come?
Later on, I believe he came up, yes.
Okay. And were all the Board of Supervisors present?
By 10 o'clock they were, yes.
Okay. And when you shared this information with them, were all of the members of the Board of Supervisors present?
I'm sure they were, although they get up and go in and out lots of
I
times.
understand that, but basically you
Oh, yes, the board was together,
and were you meeting in open session or an executive session?
open session.
We were meeting in open session. So I come back to my original question, which is that you recall, don't you, that on Monday, the folks who attended the hearing, in particular the folks from the Tallahatchie County Redistricting Committee, expressed a keen concern that they be able to observe the process by which the Tallahatchie County Board of Supervisors retain an alternate planner to draw plans for the Board of Supervisors. You do recall that?
I don't remember in that light, yes, I knew that they were interested, but I didn't think it was.
You think it was keen?
I didn't think it was a matter of public interest at that point. They're telling me to go out and find somebody.
I'm not talking about the Board of Supervisors. I'm talking about the people who came to the meeting from the community. You recall they're expressing concern about when you would meet to discuss this and asked you several times to set a specific time. You recall that, right?
Well, yes, I guess I would say I did, but now, I don't believe I felt bound by it. I knew I had the authority. As a matter of fact, I had the duty to do as much of this outside the meeting as possible, so it wouldn't burden the committee.
I see, but you do remember that the community was
I
concerned.
knew they were concerned, yes.
And you do recall the request that a specific time be set when this matter would come up on the agenda of the Tallahatchie County Board of Supervisors so that folks in the community could attend and observe. You do recall that?
1 o'clock, yes, we would clear everything else, in my mind, we would clear everything else out by 1 o'clock so that we could spend a considerable amount of time with those people. Yes.
Right, and you remember that one of the things that the Board of Supervisors said that they would be addressing at that time would be the question of whether to hire an outside planner, right?
No, I don't remember that way.
You don't recall that?
No.
Okay. Do you recall why people were getting together at 1 o'clock on Friday, today?
To have this meeting,
For what purpose?
to see what had been done in the way of a planning by the Board of Supervisors. If any.
Do you recall the specific objection that Margaret Carey, as attorney for the Tallahatchie County Redistricting Committee, and I raised with you at the lunch break about there being any decisions made about retaining an alternate planner if that decision was made other than in a public meeting? Do you recall that little colloquy that we had together?
Not specifically, no, I do
Do you
not.
recall saying to us that you were going to see that that decision was made outside the presence of people from the community, and we objected vigorously under the open meeting law? Do you remember that?
I don't remember, no. Do you have any sense that for the board to have made a decision this morning at 10 o'clock about retaining comprehensive planning in a discussion and a review of information from your discussion with Mr. Gates and Mr. Taylor before 1 o'clock effectively subverts, I stress that, effectively subverts, undermines, hinders the ability of the community to participate in learning how the Board of Supervisors made that decision, why they made that decision, what considerations they took into account in coming to that decision? Do you have any sense of that? I don't think it affects what we're doing topside and bottom.
You don't think it affects the
As long as we
community?
do things that are honorably done and honestly done, I think that's all anybody can have.
So one more question. Is it honorable on Monday to make an agreement with the community in the presence of the community that these matters would be discussed on Friday at 1 o'clock, not at 10 a.m., but at 1 o'clock, knowing that folks would assemble at 1 o'clock for the purposes of hearing what you announced to them on Monday would be on the agenda, and then to meet at 10 o'clock that morning, 3 hours before they would assemble here to hear and watch this process and make those decisions? Is that honorable within the meaning of what we're talking about, a democratic process in which the community under the First Amendment has a right to hear, observe, and respond? And the whole concept of petitioning for redress of grievances and participating in the political process includes the opportunity to observe the governmental officials at work. And so to tell us 1 o'clock and do it at 10, is that honorable? Is that what you mean by honorable?
The way I saw it is this, and I won't quibble about what's on it. The board had the right to designate me to go out and find somebody to assist us. We're not experts in these matters. To go out and find somebody who's an expert and who is not obligated to one side or the other. And I heard your criticism of comprehensive planners. It may be true. I don't know what it is. But the board designated me to go do the job, and I did the job, and I don't think that if you had been there, you wouldn't have heard anything. There wouldn't have been anything to say, because they told me to employ this man. I had employed him. All I had to do is write his name down.
You're not suggesting that the board, or are you suggesting that the board delegated to you the hiring authority on this matter?
Well, yes, I'd say the board delegated to me the duty of finding somebody who was learned in this business.
They delegate to you the decision-making authority?
No, they'd already decided, of course, that we had to have some help.
No, I'm not asking you about whether to hire someone. Did they delegate to you the decision as to who to hire?
If he met certain qualifications, yes.
So that you made the assessment, you drew the conclusions, and they simply rubber-stamped your decision this morning at 10 o'clock?
You're just quibbling about things.
No, that's what delegation means. Because they had to vote on it, right? I mean, they did not vote, they voted.
Oh, yes, you and I agree.
So that vote either represented an exercise on the part of each individual supervisor of their own discretion, based on their judgment, their computation and calculation of the strengths and weaknesses of this individual against others, or maybe no one else was considered, or they simply said, well, we had given the job to Mr. Whitten. Whatever he says goes, so just let me just raise my hand when Mr. Whitten, presents the name. Which did they do? Did they exercise their discretion or rubber stamp your decision?
I'm sure they exercise their discretion. However, I've been working for the board, as you know, 40 years, and they've got a lot of confidence in me. They think I'll do right.
I don't minimize that for a second. What I'm driving at is that at a moment, at a point in time, when each and every one of these 5 supervisors elects to exercise their discretion in making a vote, the public not only has a right to observe that, they also have a right to input. They have a right to say, wait a minute, we have something for you to consider that you might not have considered it as a result of our hearing the presentation from Mr. Whitten. We would like you to consider this before you exercise your discretion. That's what it means to participate in the political process. That's what we fought the American Revolution to achieve, and that's what we have fought to preserve the Constitution as our guide and model for how a government should be organized, to be representative of all the people. And there is no more fundamental right than to be involved at the point when decisions are made which affect people's lives and which commit their tax money in this situation. And what you did, and I want to emphasize that, what you did based on what happened on Monday, which was to represent that this process was going to take place at 1 o'clock, and then to do it at 10 o'clock at a time when each of these supervisors, as you represent, was exercising their discretion in voting the public interest, which is what I'm sure each supervisor would indicate that they had done. They made an assessment of what was in the public interest when they voted. To do that at a time when you knew that nobody would know that that's what you were doing, because the agenda had been scheduled on Monday for this to take place at 1 o'clock, is a subversion of the democratic process. And that people relied on your word, on the word of all of these board members, that when we set an agenda, we will not trick you, we will not deceive you, we will not engage in political mischief and go and do this thing at another time, because you have our word. You can rely on us that if we're not going to touch that till 1 o'clock, we're not going to touch that till 1 o'clock. And you did the opposite of that, and that is not an honorable way to proceed in the political process. How can anyone take your word from here on in the redistricting process that you are going to be honorable in the way in which you're proceeding? And this is not a personal attack. I want to be clear about that. Objectively, and without regard to the personalities involved, I have no doubt that the tapes will show, the transcript will show on Monday, that we persistently requested a time certain at which we would convene, That time certain, as you have already indicated, was set for Friday at 1 p.m. We all relied on that. Nobody felt that they had to hound you or hang around your life or this courthouse day in and day out until Friday at 1 to see if something sneaky was going to happen. We relied on that. We trusted you. And you didn't follow through on your word. And that's serious when we're talking about this kind of a process. There is nothing more fundamental than the redistribution of power through the realignment of political districts. This is the ballgame. This is where it's at. You know how important it is. We know how important it is. And we would like to have thought that when you, as an attorney, as a member of the bar, and as a public representative, was a fiduciary trust with all the people, that when you give us your word that we won't touch this till 1 p.m. on Friday, that we can rely on that good as gold, solid as rock. And that's not what happened. It's not what happened.
So,
I'd like to.
at this time, our attorney is present, Ms. Carey, and we're going to turn all legal matters over to Ms. Carey. I would like to bring her up to where we are right now, according to my understanding. Okay, and Mr. Taylor, we would like for the record to show, we would like for those records brought up here, the ones where the planner, we had a planner that sent in a proposal to be able to do this redistricting, because according to my understanding, this has not been discussed even enough to decide if he be the one that do it, if the board discuss whether comprehensive planners do it. So we would like to ask that that proposal be brought to this meeting. This is a public meeting, and we was expecting that this happened at 1 o'clock. So we would like to ask the board to ask Mr. Taylor to bring that proposal up.
I'm not sure what we're asking for. We want to get it for you, but is that your plan, in other words?
No. It's a proposal where someone wrote, sent a proposal
Oh, yes,
to
no,
them
yes.
requesting that they be hired
You
to
have
do
it.
this. So we would like to ask that that be made a part of this meeting.
Well, it may be in my bag. He may not have it.
How many did you get?
It may be in my bag. I don't know. I just knew that whoever it was too late. He wasn't going to get employed because we had 2 others already.
But it came in before the decision was made, didn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you mean you had two others already?
We had 2 others. We had your plan, which is had a lot of thought gone into it, and we got this other whom we had trust and confidence to.
So you already had comprehensive plan at the time that you received this proposal? Mr. Whitney?
Well, just a moment. This is a letter that Mr. Burkhalter brought to the meeting this morning, I guess. And from Armstrong Associates Jackson. Is that the one you speak about?
Well, I'm sure that's one of them.
That's the only one I've seen.
So
Well,
who brought that to the office?
My question
The
again.
post office, it took it to Mr.
When did it come?
Date the 8th,
Okay, well, you had it yesterday.
dated the 8th, and I'm sure it was here sooner than yesterday.
That you ought to advertise for this. That you ought to advertise this. Well, how would they know about sending in a proposal then?
I don't know. Didn't learn from me, because I never heard of Armstrong Associates. He's apparently done a lot of work, though, because he cites about 10 other counties that he worked on.
I'd like to address the board. And I do say the board because my first concern is a decision by this board not to participate in this process and to have you be the only person who will speak. First of all, with all due respect to your position and your longevity, tenure in that position, you are not elected by any citizen of Tallahatchie County.
Right.
Okay? And each one of these gentlemen is. When people come to address this governmental body, and when they come to get input into the process of to have input into that process, and to have an exchange with their elected officials, with their representatives, they do not come to talk to you. Okay? And I think it's a neglect of the responsibilities of the each one of these gentlemen to sit here when citizens who have worked as hard as the people on this redistricting committee to bring a plan before you when you hadn't done anything, came to discuss it with you, and came back a second time, for them to decide not to speak, to me is the highest of insults, and I think really neglects their responsibility to the public. And how they can sit here, having made that decision, and suggest that they represent any of the people who are in this audience or whose interests the people in this audience represent. I think it's impossible, it's a lie, it's a charade that's being put forth in the public. This is an opportunity, and this is what you have chosen to do with the opportunity. So, first of all, I think at this point, if what you're saying is that Mr. Whitten is going to continue to speak for you, that should be clearly stated on the record, and we should understand that at this point we are dealing with Mr. Whitten and a board that is going to rubber stamp his representations and whatever his advice is on this issue. Second, we can go back and forth and people can act like they don't remember, and maybe by being silent it relieves you of the responsibility to be honest. And maybe you can feel that because you sit here and you let Mr. Whitten say things that you know are not true, that it doesn't make you liars because it's not coming out of your mouth. But we all know that when we met on Monday, at the end of that session in the morning, the only remaining issue was setting a second meeting where you would deliberate about the question of hiring a consultant for this board. This recommendation was made that you not seek additional assistance. That in fact, if there were modifications that were going to be recommended in good faith by members of this board, they could be recommended to the demographer who had already done work on the plan that was submitted to you. It was our understanding, and I believe the record will show that, and we'd be glad to supply you a copy of it because there's no question that the tape will show that at that point when we pushed in the morning for a meeting, you refused to set a time. For that reason, because I had planned to leave that morning. I had other matters to take care of in South Mississippi. But because you said you would not deal with it then, I stayed here through lunch and into the afternoon for the sole purpose of seeing you make a decision on when we could meet to discuss the hiring of a consultant. At the close of that meeting on Monday, you said to us, and it's no, I don't think there's any room for dispute about this. You said to us that you would continue the discussion on a consultant at 1 o'clock on Friday. In fact, I think someone said that you usually meet on Friday or something like that, so you can have it on Friday. The tape will show what happened. But it was agreed that at 1 o'clock you would meet. At that point, it was our understanding that we would not only hear you make that decision or hear Mr. Whitten make that recommendation to you, but that we would have an opportunity to have input into that process. That we would have an opportunity to discuss with you further the need to have anyone else hired. Beyond that, if it seemed that you were going to go ahead and hire someone, that we would have an opportunity to have input into the selection of the particular consultant. Mr. Whitten, did you contact either of the two consultants that I had recommended to you on Monday?
I did not.
Is there a reason why you did not do that?
Yes, I had already contacted Mr. Hardy, and I wanted him to do it. I had confidence in him. He'd worked for us twice before. And if you leave it up to me, I was going to get Hardy, which I did.
And it was left up to you?
I think it was.
Okay, so you just made a decision that you would not even explore the possibility of hiring anyone else?
As long as the option was mine, I would do what I thought was better, which means that I'd already made my mind.
What, if any, effect did the objection that we made to comprehensive planning mean to you in making that decision?
I didn't, of course, didn't assess it at the time. I just felt like it, that they had done, I think maybe you said so. They made other plans of this sort along this line, and you all were dissatisfied. Not you, I don't mean people of Tallahatchie County, some of the people of Tallahatchie County.
And what effect did that have on your decision? Since the decision was yours, what effect, if any, did that have on your decision?
I don't think that any.
And why didn't it?
I just didn't think it was pertinent.
You didn't think it was pertinent?
I did not.
You didn't think an objection, based on the fact that comprehensive planners in the past has drawn plans that have discriminated against black people, you didn't think that was pertinent?
Pardon me to speak again, I have trouble with the throat. Comprehensive planners, the last time they worked for this county, and I was in on that too, is I'm not returning for the school board, but the attorney for the school board asked me to participate. We got the same fellow, Tommy Gates, came over here and we put him with the school board's people, whoever they were. I've forgotten who the people, I think Robert had gone, and I'm pretty sure Eddie was there some of the time. We said, these people are the majority of this school district, the blacks. Do for them whatever is right. And also, settle among them the differences that have among themselves if you can. He came up with a plan within a period of time, I don't know how long ago. I didn't even go out. They adopted it, sent it in, said this is fine. I didn't know there was any objection to Mr. Gates. I thought Mr. Gates stood high with the black people over there, not on county-wide.
Let me make a question. Also, at the same time, we met with comprehensive plan, I think you were there and someone else. And I think Mr. Little was there. And at one point or another, we asked Mr. I don't know, Mr. Gates or whoever, about the way he draws the line. And he made a statement that he draws the line the way they said, after you said they, he cut it off. So I don't know who was they. It wasn't us that recommended him to draw the line the way he did.
Well, it sure wasn't me.
Anytime that you draw two persons in the same district and then draw another one out.
I don't know how that happened. All I know is that after we turned over to him and told him to go out there, in the president of your group too, I wasn't talking about side in the corner somewhere. He said, these people are entitled to have their ideas as to why the school district should be divided and so forth, because they are the majority of this people in the school, have most of the children there black, and go and satisfy them. That's the last I heard of it, till we came in and said, this is the family all approved.
Again, on Monday, we raised a specific objection to comprehensive plans. And I want to know if you conducted any investigation to find out if that objection was legitimate. Did you do any kind of research to determine if, in fact, comprehensive planners had the track record that we described to you on Monday before you hired them?
I did not after Monday. I did not.
Had you done that previously?
I had done it on 2 occasions previously.
You had looked into their track record in drawing plans in majority black communities.
No, I can't say that. I looked into that. They wrote and said we worked with these people, check up on them, see how we did. I did that and it turned out all right.
Who are these people?
Ms. Carey's that's been 10 years ago, no, eight or 9 years ago.
Oh, so you haven't done anything since then?
Oh, yes, I did, but I didn't do those things when it came up 2 years ago about school board.
So the bottom line is, the objection that was made on Monday was irrelevant as far as you were concerned in making the decision.
I think irrelevant was a little bit too strong a word, but it was something that I thought about, but didn't attach enough importance to him to say, call them up and say, send in a new resume, I want to know who I'm dealing with, because I knew already.
Again, I would say this way, we nearly begged you for us to be a part of this, and you promised us that it would be 1 o'clock on Friday. But you had folks stated that we wouldn't be in the meeting. You proved your point. We did not. We were not in this meeting. So you said the meeting started at 10 o'clock. And you had
Well, that was done as an accommodation. I didn't know we were trying to avoid anything. Matter of fact, I got over here, I didn't know who I was going to see. Didn't matter.
But even though you said the meeting was set for 1 o'clock and we would discuss it, we could have been easily here at 10 o'clock had we have known that. But we relied on your word, saying it would be at 1 o'clock.
Well, I don't think that the employment of someone to assist the board with a matter of this sort is the sort of thing that you're talking about that you always have to give a while ago. The board makes those decisions on its own. It doesn't have to make those decisions in the open. I give the board everybody. They present themselves to be represented by me. That's all it takes.
Mr. Whitten, you know, with all due respect, you really need to go read the Mississippi Open Meetings Law. I mean, you really do, because you are treading on very thin and dangerous ice.
I'll be glad to read
Given
it.
the fact that we referred you to that on Monday and told you on Monday the problems with the way you were suggesting to proceed, you know,
Ms. Carey,
we're talking malpractice to me at this point.
I've done anything wrong
You
with it.
know, because the law is clear. It's your responsibility as the attorney for this board to follow the law. The state of Mississippi says that this body is a public body. It can only act through its meetings. There are certain limited circumstances when the board can go into executive session. They are enumerated clearly in the law. Certainly, this issue was not one that should have been handled in executive session.
why are we
So
talking
it's
about the
something-
executive session in question?
Because, I mean, that's the only thing in the law that I think you could even be confused with to suggest at this point that the hiring of a consultant that will be paid from public funds, the hiring of a consultant for the county of Tallahatchie, these men aren't hiring this consultant for themselves. I mean, that might be the gist of what they thought they were doing, but legally they're hiring this consultant for this county. And for you to suggest that that is not a matter of importance to the public, and so it's not a big deal that it was held, the meeting to do that was held at a time other than the one that you gave us notice of, I mean, clearly shows that you just do not have an appreciation of the laws of the state of Mississippi when it
I
comes
think
to
you're
meetings.
mistaken there. Of course, you better bad on mine, I haven't read them this week.
But I don't represent any public bodies. You represent this county. How can I be better prepared on the open meetings law than you do?
Well, we haven't had any meetings except open meetings. But what I was going to say is that these people are representative of the people of the county. People of the county can't come up here every time somebody has to decide whether the bridge needs to be repaired or road changed. These people are employed by the county to represent the county, not to come back and deal with them.
But they can't.
They representative.
Sure, they're representatives. But if any citizen wants to come here and have input into this process, to have discussions with their representative about why they're making a particular decision, that right is still there. When you go to the ballot box, that's not the end and extent of the authority that the public has. I mean, if that was the case, all we have to do is go and elect 5 people and then let them go off and do whatever they want to do and not be accountable to anybody. But that is not the way the law sets up these county boards of supervisors. They have no authority to run in that way. And if you are advising them that they do, I mean, I would suggest that you very quickly review the law and come back and change your advice to them, because they cannot do that. Aside from racial issues or anything else, they can be hit so quickly with the lawsuit. And I'm not sure that they don't need to be hit with one right now about what has been happening. And the law is clear. You can't get around it. The open meetings law is clear.
If you think there's some part of it, I'll be better acquainted with it, write me a letter and put it down, I'll go tend to it.
Oh, I will write you more than a letter. Believe that.
I'm glad to tend to it the best of my ability.
Because we dealt with this on Monday.
I'll go a step further too. I've written probably 6 or 7 memoranda in the last year on the open meetings law. And I would suggest to you, because you specifically set this item for the agenda on Friday at 1 p.m., that any action that you took this morning, open meeting or executive session, was in violation of that law and is void on its face. And I'll go one further step, because we're now talking remedy for the violation. That if this person engages in work on behalf of the county, that any bills or obligations which are incurred on the basis of the illegal and void decision that was made this morning are the personal responsibility of the supervisors and the attorney, because of your peculiarly and singular role in not only advising them but in making the decision which they voted on, and that it is not an obligation and cannot be an obligation of the taxpayer. That's number one. Number two, by way of remedy, is that the work performed cannot be seen as work officially done on behalf of the county. And it can only be personal to the people who engaged in this illegal contract, because the essence of the ability of a public body, the Board of Supervisors, to enter into a contract with anybody is that that must be done in strict compliance with the requirements of the law, because they are committing the entire community and its public coffers, its money, to the task. And so the open meetings law is the essential, it's the linchpin, it's the essential ingredient which is required as a precondition to being able to act legally. And when you set up an agenda so that people are led to believe you're going to act as a board at one time, and then you sneak into doing that action prior to that time, you are not meeting the precondition. It is illegal. And as Margaret Carey so eloquently started her presentation, it is an insult for you to attempt to determine for the people what's important to them. And you set their priorities and say, well, you don't need to know about this. We'll tell you when something's important enough for you to even consider coming here to hear what we're doing. That is not your prerogative. No public official has that prerogative. And that's why you have an open meetings law. It's all open. And it isn't for you to decide that.
I'd be glad to read any of the...
Well, you need to also rectify, what I'm saying is, you need to rectify the injury that's already occurred. You've acted in an illegal manner, and that needs to be remedied.
If I have to pay Mr.
I don't want you to pay personally. I want you to remedy the process by doing it right. And the first thing that means is you have to bring this matter up at a public meeting with proper notice to the public, so that they can be present at the time that any deliberation is done on this, and then vote, only then vote, after that process has been done legally.
That's the reason I asked you to send me your tracts. I don't believe you're right. I would like to read it and check them out. And of course, when we do that, then we postpone beyond relief the matter of having an election on time.
You can't put on me the responsibility for any delay that results from your failure to act in accordance with the law. That was your responsibility to begin with. And if you're not familiar with the open meetings law, that's your responsibility, not ours.
Mr. Whitney, hold on, you just going to say that you would have to pay Mr. Gates out of your pocket. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Well, the point is what I'm trying to bring out now. Okay, did Mr. Gates know that this meeting was set for 1 o'clock? But in doing so, that he had to go back to Columbus, you all put this up to town?
I don't believe he knew a thing about it.
Okay, he did not. You think it's wise to let him know that this meeting was set, even though he didn't accept the proposal to draw this redistricting? And let him take a chance, and then take a chance on you paying him out of your pocket.
I don't believe he'd be interested in that at all, Richard.
I would like to ask a question, and I want to address this question to the board. When will you all be able to open your mouth again? Because it don't make no sense now. Each and every one of you are making almost $200 an hour. And you're sitting up here and you can't even open your mouth. When will you all be able to open your mouth again?
Richard, I think we...
No, this is board,
Well, they have-
Mr. Whitney, and we need to know when they will be able to open their mouth, because we need to ask a question about what happened this morning.
It won't be today.
Mr. Mormon, when will you be able to open your mouth again?
When I get
If
ready.
not, if you can open it in the next 2 days.
I'm opening when I get ready to eat tonight, I know.
When you get ready to eat? Okay. Mr. Todd,
That's about time.
when you get ready to eat tonight?
Not today.
Mr. Odd, when will you all be able to say anything to these people that's here?
The redistricting. After today, I
And
mean,
each and every one of y'all.
After today, anytime, if we agree to this meeting, let's get it.
So every time that we come to a public
Why is
meeting,
Mr. Whitney, I mean, why did you all feel it necessary for Mr.
He was
Whitney?
more familiar with it than all of us. We just asked.
But we are asking you questions about issues that the citizens of this community have felt are important enough that they have learned about them. You all have to make the decision. At some point, don't you have to learn about them? At some point, don't you have to feel like you can have a discussion back and forth with your constituents about these issues?
We had said we were going to come here and try to move this thing along, not waste time shouting back and forth. We want to keep the tone of the meeting high, and where, as Richard suggested when he first came in, we could get together and work on something that might be agreed upon mutually. And it's not impossible.
But you all come here already setting a tone that's contrary to that. Because instead of having the issue come at this meeting today when everybody was coming expecting to discuss it, you have basically done an end run, pushed it up early in the morning. I mean, it's clear, it's obvious. I mean, it's thinly veiled, but it's obvious what happened. You say 1 o'clock and then you decide that you make a decision before you come here at 1 o'clock. How is that consistent with any policy or the spirit of working together? I think the people who have shown good faith in working together are the people in this community. Do you understand that when they called me, there was no reason to come before you all? I mean, if this was one of the plainest lawsuits that could have ever been filed in the history of voting rights litigation. I mean, I could have sat down and picked up one of my model pleading files and had off of my computer a complaint and gone straight to court, and they didn't have to say a word to you. But they had enough respect for you all to go and get a demographer, have that demographer draw plans, come and bring that plan, brought me here to explain it to you, asked you if you had questions on it,
Just
and
kidding.
then said they want, no, but I'm saying.
Yeah, but you weren't here in the beginning. We did contact some people that were suggested earlier, a month or 6 weeks ago. We didn't go around, we talked about people, and we talked about the comprehensive plan. Somebody supplied the name, I believe Eddie. I couldn't even think of
We're
anything.
talking about what happened
I'm not
this
gonna hear
morning.
you didn't do it, but when we were talking, I said there was people over at West Point or on Meridian, but I didn't know where it was. And somebody in your group said that's a comprehensive plan.
We knew that was the one that you had used in the past.
That was
We knew
me,
that.
mentioned that back in January sometime.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, come and plan it out of Aberdeen or come somewhere.
Well, again, you know, we're talking about what happened this morning. I'd like to know what instructions were given to comprehensive plan this morning.
Well, I can just tell you, nothing was written down, but I can tell you broadly. First, he was directed to find out which set of numbers was correct, the ones that the peer committee sent to us, or the numbers that you all had. And we also had one, well, peculiarly, I believe 5 beats. One of them was exactly, they matched exactly. Another one was right close, but 2 of them were badly off. We asked him to be sure and find out which set of figures is right. Now, and I've already said, I think your figures are correct, but the ones that furnished us by the peer committee simply don't jive with.
See,
He had
that's
to look at it.
That's confusing to me.
But you asked me though what
Well,
to tell you, and I'm telling you what it is.
yeah, but that inquiry, that question, that concern of yours is confusing to me, because I don't understand this different data you're talking about. It sounds like you're mixing apples and oranges. Did the peer committee give you information on the existing districts in the county?
They gave us information on what the 90 census showed.
For the existing districts?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Now, what figures of ours are you trying to compare with them?
The figures that you all started out with when you said this beat has to be raised so many votes, not so many people, this one needs to be taken away from. That's the one.
Oh, when I told you there was a malapportionment.
Yeah.
Okay, so did the peer committee's figures show a total deviation in excess of 10%?
Yes,
They did,
I'm sure they did.
okay?
Total deviation, I know that some of them, one way the figure's about 38%, one way is in excess of 10, but yes, they showed a deviation.
Do you know to what extent that deviation went? You say it's over 10%. How much higher than 10%?
You just asked me to think, I don't know, that's out of my bailiwick. Let me see if I can. Those figures came to the clerk.
State released some figures back in a couple weeks ago, some sense, which is the same thing that we discussed now. You got those figures with you?
No, that wasn't public information, that was something I got together from board members. I don't know how it got the paper, I certainly didn't submit it, didn't authorize it to be published.
Well, you the one.
I got one now. You know what it is?
Yeah, he the one put it in there.
Right.
No, I didn't put it in there, and I'd like to say for the record that personal information I got together from the board, and how it got the paper, I don't know, but I didn't authorize it to be put in the paper. I work with 5 board members.
But when you say personal, I mean, what kind of numbers?
I can't remember,
What was the purpose of the number?
to inform the board what the 90 cents, what I came up with.
Were you using 90 cents?
I was using what I got from the peer committee.
Are they showing voting age population, general population? Black, white, black voting age, white voting age.
No,
Mr. Eastridge?
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
familiar with those figures from the peer committee?
I have seen those figures, Miss Carey, this morning, and I was going to say, I don't think that everybody understands what figures we're talking about, what they're talking about. I understand, and I stand to be corrected, that when it first started talking about redistricting, the county administrator sent down to Piers to get the figures. Okay? Well, the figures came back all right enough with 15,210 people in the county, population in the county. That is also what the census figures say, as you well know. Now, they had it broken down in Supervisor District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the Pier did too, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the only beat or Supervisor's District that was exactly on the exact same numbers, the census figure and the Pier figure was beat 4. Okay? The other 4 beats were off, and if I saw that this morning, I could show you better than I can tell you what we're talking about. The Pier figures for the county are exactly as they are the census figures countywide, 15,000. But the beats are different, except for beat 4.
Is it possible that the peer figures you're referring to are the preliminary numbers and not the final
Could
figures?
be, could be. I do not
There
know.
were differences. I mean, everyone knew that you couldn't work with the preliminary numbers,
But
because the final numbers didn't come out till February. Census figures.
that possibly could be so. I don't know answer to your question. The only thing that I do know is that the census figures and the Pier figures for the entire county of Tallahatchie is 15,210 people. That's the total
But
figure.
the peer figures would have come from the census.
Yes.
So
yes,
did anybody
yes.
inquire? Did anybody inquire to determine whether the peer numbers were intended to be final numbers?
I think that's what they asked this man from comprehensive planners to do, to determine whose figures are right. Evidently, and I agree with Mr. Whitten, I believe that Pier took a precinct out of one supervisor's district and added those numbers inadvertently to another beat to make those numbers come out differently. Because your bottom figures, your total figures are the same. And one beat 4, is exactly the same. The numbers are exactly the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't have the figures in front of me right now because I don't know what happened to them. I just saw them this morning.
I understand what you're saying. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that item. So that was the first thing that you instructed.
That's one of the things we discussed with him. And another thing we discussed with him was the hope that he could change a few precinct lines as possible.
And why is that?
It's a matter of, again, I'm no expert, but I always turn to Mr. Eastwood when I have questions, that's all. It's easier for him to hold an election and for people to know where to go vote if you don't change them every time you vote. You don't have to go to a precinct. I have a son who went over tried to vote in the wrong precinct last time I had an election. It's just precinct because they in summer, the line goes right down now and then twists line. He didn't realize he'd been included in that district. So we asked him to, as nearly as possible, keep the precincts as they now are. Okay, we won't have to give notice about change of the voting place and things like that.
Okay, and were there any other instructions or criteria?
The only other thing that I can remember that would be of importance, and of course that's, I think I might get that one. We point out to him the shape of district number 5 on your plan, and ask him if that could be made a little more in the shape of a rectangle, circle, square, or something, as opposed to being hourglass shape.
Is there a reason for that?
Just a matter of awkwardness of dealing with a beat of that side, those lines, and changing, many people had to go different places to vote.
But when you have changes, I mean, you can make those changes, can't you?
I can make any change that I am given when it's finalized. But it's more difficult when you do change your precincts. In other words, Ms. Carey, and I have to take you back a little bit. Before the 85 Supervisors District Plan, all of Sumner, for instance, was in B5, and all of Webb was in B5, and then we split part of it and put part of it in 2, part of it in 5, And it took those people a long time, a lot of people a long time, and some of them still are going to the community house to vote when they should be going to the American Legion hut. Some are going to the school when they should be going to the court. Those type things is the only reason that I would recommend keeping the precinct lines as close as possible. Also here in Charleston, all of Charleston was in beat 2, and now split 3 ways, and those people are just now learning where to go, especially when your municipal elections are in one place, your county elections are in another place. It's difficult. Not for my office to make the changes. No, we can do it. We can make the changes.
Okay, but like you said, on the voting rights sexuality, the law requires that you redistrict, even though people are having trouble with their lines, you got to do what the law says. That's the worst.
I agree with that.
You got a lot of people, like you're saying, you know, going so far and don't know what they're still voting in it. And we're going to sit there and still going to put them in the same position that they're in now, and saying they can't, saying that you want to redraw the lines to a certain extent to somebody else.
And Robert, I tell you, I'm not talking race, but blacks are penalized by that more than the whites are.
I mean, you know, you're saying you're not talking race, but all, like Ms. Carey said, we saw on Friday, just about all that evening, and saying that we're going to come in today at 1 o'clock and deal with this issue. But yet, the board or yourself don't talk at 10 o'clock to meet with this comprehensive plan, man, whoever, and don't make y'all decision. How can you say this not race? If that wasn't race, what would you call that?
One race, I'll show you, that is.
In moving the lines, Paul, I'm sure you instruct your workers when you train them that any person come there, if they're confused, they can vote affidavit, and then it'll be taken up at another time, so that's no problem. That person still get a chance to vote. It's not disenfranchising a person to vote. Don't care where his line is. He's instructed, the workers are instructed to vote that person, and if it needs to be counted, the committee will take it up, the election commission will take it up, the executive committee will take it up and count that vote.
That's the law, and how many times it happened so.
Can I also ask?
Okay, when Mr. Meeks was in this meeting this morning, you all was talking comprehensive plan.
I don't believe you are. He came in before you.
I came into the board meeting at 10 o'clock, and I think they were just winding up.
So you did have some input in this with the comprehensive plan?
No, sir, I don't believe so until after he came down to my office and got a little old map, one of the county-wide road maps from me at my office. Yes, I saw him then.
At 10?
Sir?
They were winding up at 10?
Sometime after 10. I don't know exactly what time it was, but it was after the board was in session.
Sister, had you had any other contact with comprehensive planners before today?
No, ma'am.
On the issue of
No, ma'am.
supervisory district?
No, ma'am. Not since 84, 85. I did in 85 when they were calling for different data on how many people were in what precincts and the precinct names and that type of thing. But no, not prior to today. No.
Mr. Whitten, were there any other instructions that they were given or directions?
The only thing that I can say, and I can't be specific, is that he was told that it was important to get to move as rapidly as possible. He spoke of it being very difficult for him to be able to get us a plan before the end of the month. And he said if he waited that long, we couldn't get the election. So we tried to spur him up, and I don't know when he's getting it. He said to come up with his recommendations as soon as he got to our business, but our business was about third or fourth in line behind some others.
Okay, when you spoke to comprehensive planning, did you also inform him when you draw the district of all 5 B, did you all instruct him to come up with a down to 3 black supervisor districts?
We did.
One of the districts.
Electable districts.
Yes, we did.
Beyond that, districts with populations of at least the same as those that we presented to you.
No, we didn't.
And why didn't you?
I don't think that's the law.
Did you instruct him? Go ahead.
Did you instruct him on percentages at all?
No, we told him to find out, and I think he knows far more about it than any of us did, but we told him to come up with 3 districts that were majority black, 60% above or in that range, to meet the law. He seemed to know more about it than we.
Why did you feel a need to limit the number?
I don't think we limited them. I don't believe I mentioned at all.
Or did you tell him you didn't want them as high as they are?
No.
Did you tell
No.
him that black citizens in this community had requested that this board draw a plan, if it's not gonna adopt this plan, adopt a plan that has percentages at least as high as their proposal?
No, we did not.
Why didn't you?
We don't think it's the law, and we don't think it's our duty to set out.
Whether it's the law or not, you didn't tell him that you had a hearing that packed MP&L last Monday that took hours.
Oh, yes, we told him about
Where
that.
people,
We
you
did.
did tell him that?
We told him, we gave him a copy of your plan and told him that you ought to spend a lot of time, the good man that was on it, and he knew who he was. But we didn't say you come up with at least these percentages, no. We told him to come up with the percentages that the courts say, the elected probably, as Mr. Justice said, and he expects to do that. Now, only mention of any other, I believe we did say, or he said something about it's not to be less than they had under the present system. In other words, if you got in, say, B5, if you got 68%, we told him not to make it less than 68% in the new. Not to take anything away from that.
Did you instruct him to contact any of us?
Why not?
Well, we didn't instruct him to contact anybody. He'd contact whomever he wished to contact. I don't think we should tell him how to do his work.
He is working for the county.
Yep.
He is working for all of these people out here. And it's bad enough, first of all, that you would hold a meeting at a time to make sure that they couldn't be here. Because, and you should tell from this meeting that it was important for us to be here. Because we would have asked comprehensive planners these questions. I wanted to know what they thought of the plan we had drawn. Because I wanted to understand what was wrong with that plan.
He may well.
Why couldn't that plan be adopted? Why he had to be hired, period. Those are the kinds of questions that citizens of this county were entitled to ask and explore with this guy before he was hired by this board as a consultant. Now, you deny that opportunity, but you don't even think it's your responsibility to say to him, one, that black citizens of this county have asked you, have told you is a priority of theirs in redistricting to have 3 districts with black voting age population at least at the level of their proposed plan. You don't think it's important to tell them that? You don't think it's important to tell them that not only did black citizens request that on Monday, but that on Monday, each one of these supervisors, with the exception of one, said that they had no problem with those figures. You didn't feel a need to say to him, these are people who have been looking at the issue of redistricting since January. They know the process. They have people working with them who are knowledgeable. Call them for input. And I'd like to know why you didn't feel a need, I mean, since you're the Board of Supervisors for all intents and purposes on this issue, unelected as you may be, why you didn't feel the need to say these things and to instruct this person who is acting on behalf of the public along these lines.
Well, there are many things that left unsaid because I knew he'd do it already. We handed him the plans that you had prepared. He looked at who had prepared them. He looked at the figures. He understood that what the percentage was that you all had in each district. He saw it very clearly.
He had no way of knowing the other things I mentioned to you. He had no way of knowing unless you told him or unless you allowed us to be there to tell him ourselves that we wanted a plan, that our plan was a minimum, that we wanted him to go by in drawing his plan if he had to do another plan. He had no way of knowing unless these supervisors told him or you told him that 4 of the 5 members had no objection to the figures in those districts. He had no way of knowing that.
In this case, he didn't. You recall that, first of all, we really don't know how to respond when the lady, most of us don't, presses on a matter like that. I'll agree with you sometimes just to
Oh,
pass
listen,
by, and I told
wait a
him
minute.
that,
If you're trying,
I'm not gonna use sex against either.
no, if you're trying to do a retraction for the supervisors on the basis that I was a woman who they were speaking to, it's not gonna work. And we may as well put that to rest right now because I don't want to see that on paper or anywhere else. I come here not only as a lawyer, but as a damn good lawyer in this issue. And I face you and we discuss the issues. These men had no more concern. If they had a lot of concern and respect for me because I was a woman, they would have made a decision on meeting at 1 o'clock at 11:30 and not kept me here all day instead of waiting until the end of the day. That would have been respectful. And then they would have met at 1 o'clock as they
Well, let me
said.
tell you what I did say to him about you. I said she's a damn good lawyer. She knows her business.
Again,
Go ahead, Counsel. Don't let me start.
again, you know, there's a lot of kind of little underhanded ways that you have of dealing with people. I mean, I witnessed in our short relationship on this
Mine?
issue. Yes, I mean, like on Monday saying that you would make sure that we weren't here at the time the decision was made, and then making sure that we weren't here. And now slipping in this suggestion that people just agreed with me because these men who are supervisors don't know how to talk with women. They don't know how to respond to a woman. Those kinds of things. And I think we need to put it out on the table right now that that's not
Be
going
glad to.
to work. This is 1991. We're getting ready to go into the 21st century. And if 5 men who have the kind of responsibilities that these gentlemen have cannot address a woman, then their problems go beyond race and redistricting. I mean, way far beyond that. And I didn't pick up that at any time. They looked at us, looked us in the eyes, and responded directly to us when we asked questions of them. And although you're speaking for them now, I'm just saying that that's foolishness to try to retract what was said then on that basis.
I didn't know. I didn't say it for that purpose.
In a very kind of underhanded way, you really did.
Not understanding.
Yeah, I think I have to say that. Because I'm pretty direct, and I would be lying if I thought that you didn't intend to do that.
Counsel, can I ask this question that, on Monday, the board instructed the attorney to seek someone, but I didn't know, and I did not hear, and I don't think our recording picked up where they instructed him to move the lines here, to do this here, to these criteria. That's one of the things we was asking for, the criteria that you was going to use in hiring someone. And now you tell us that you told him to move the lines here, keep the lines closed as here as you can, and the board never said to you keep the lines closed here, closed there, and do this little bit here and do this little bit there. They said to contact some planners.
No, Ms. Terry asked me what instruction I could recall we gave him on what we discussed. And that was
I'm
one
talking
of
about what
we
the board
discussed.
asked you to do, Mr. Attorney, not what Ms. Carey instructed you. The board instructed you to contact comprehensive plan, see if we can't get something going. And they did not specifically point out to you to move lines here, to move this here or that there.
No, they did not.
Did you give comprehensive planning, or any of the supervisors give comprehensive planning any detailed directions in that way?
I heard none, I don't believe any we gave.
Was comprehensive planning told to keep particular areas in one district or another?
They were not. We did point out that Mr. Hart is, at first, the plan was first presented, he was moved over in District 3, which is the place now occupied by Mr. Todd, and you all had changed the line so that he was back in District 4. That's the only thing I remember discussing.
Well, we would like to request a meeting with comprehensive planners to be called by the Board of Supervisors so that we can have direct input into their redistricting process. Basically, what we're asking for is the opportunity that you took away from us today. We'd like an opportunity before they draw a plan to have input into that process and understand what, if anything, they felt the need to change on the proposal that we had provided.
I think the plan now is that we get something from comprehensive planners. They let us know they're ready to report. At that time, call a special meeting of the board and notify you all.
No, I'm talking about a meeting, like the meeting that you had with them this morning, which was not public, because the public who had notified you that they wanted to be there at the time you had that discussion was deliberately kept out of that session. I am requesting a meeting be set up with comprehensive planning as soon as possible before they begin drawing a plan, so that we can have the opportunity to have input in that process as we should. It probably would be best if it could be held, say, on a weekend day. This coming weekend would be fine, so that the broadest participation as possible could be had, or in the evening hour when people who work would be available to attend.
And again, I said that brings back earlier what I had just said. You know, we want to be a part before company planners started on this plan.
We even sent certified letters to that effect to you all, requesting that any facet of redistricting that I be notified in writing. And I have not been notified in writing, and even to come to the meeting Monday and then you all just totally ignore the fact that we requested to be there and you all gave us a time and we are here. And so we would like...
When we left here Monday, I had no idea this man was going to come over here. I'd been talking on the telephone to Mr. Bob Hardy. And Mr. Hardy said that, matter of fact, he didn't even send me a statement of what he's going to charge us. I said, well, what's it going to be? That's what I tell the board. He said, well, it's going to be the same thing we charged you for the last time you were over. Whatever. And he said, you got 11. I said, we got 11.
But still, Mr. Wade, that's not doing it in a business manner. You know, you, the attorney for the board, we elected these people as our leaders in Tallahatchie County. What you were saying, I see you doing that for yourself, but you're dealing with a whole county of people. You know, and that's not business-like.
And another thing too, I can't understand, how is it that the supervisors can expend taxpayers' money without knowing how much they're expending? This man is telling you that he's going to do it for X number of dollars per hour, but you don't have an estimate on how many hours it's going to take him. That's one of my main concerns also.
Mr. Hardy told me on the telephone, I don't have it written down, but I trust him. But he would estimate me $2,000 to $2,500. He told me that when I first discussed it with him some time ago.
Between $2,000 to $2,500 for all everything.
Well, all those people who work on him, as I said, number 1 planner, number 2 planner, technician,
Well, I see they came down quite a ways from the last time that they even redistricted in 83. I see they came down quite a ways out.
I don't know what to tell you.
I think I got, you got a copy of that. You got a copy of that? We need to ask him for some of that money back he got in 83. Comprehensive plan has got $8,604. Okay, and when they did the school, it cost $5,728. Plus, it was $11,456 total. The county paid one half and the school paid one half, which was $5,728.32 a piece, just for school line. And I find it hard to believe now that he could come back here and redistrict the entire county justice court judge, supervisor, school line, and everything for $2,500. And if he can, maybe he need to look at what he overcharged us last time. And
That, I consider him to be an independent contractor who engaged his services. And I don't suppose that might be his job.
Well, now, I would also suppose that there was incentive for him to try to undercut what anybody else who would reasonably do the job
okay.
would offer. But we certainly can check on what they routinely charge to do county redistricting. We have access, I have a lot of that in my files that they have done for other places. And I'm sure we'll see the difference in what they're willing to do this for. You mentioned in talking about how you had dealt with comprehensive planning in the past, that because the majority of the people involved in the public school system were black, you basically told him, you know, come and talk with the black people and come up with a plan that they're satisfied with because they're the ones who are the majority. And I want to know, when is that going to happen with the supervisory districts? Because it's the same situation. And that's what we had hoped to do today. It would be appropriate if that is the policy that you used before, and one that you cited to me as being successful, as being something that everybody has been comfortable with. It's appropriate for comprehensive planners to come and for the board of supervisors to make that same kind of commitment. The overwhelming population in this county is black. I think they should come and have to deal with and be accountable to that population in the drawing of this plan, and not be cut off and have a board of 5 white supervisors say to them, don't do any more than. I mean, is there any reason why that same process cannot be used in this case that you used in the case of the school districts?
Just 6 of one, half dozen of another. He was dealing with the school board as opposed to board supervisor. And the school board says do this, the board supervisor may say do something else. But nobody has said anywhere to violate the law. Everybody has been told in dealing with this matter that you can go by the guidelines established by the federal courts. If you don't know what it is, well, we can refer you to some people who can explain to you.
But I'm going back to what you said earlier. You said because the majority of the people involved in the public school system were black, you said, here, go talk to these people and come up with a plan that black people can be satisfied with. Okay, I mean, that's what you told me earlier.
Yes.
I didn't know that. You said that.
That's absolutely true.
Okay,
Now,
and I'm
you
saying,
gotta remember, in this side of the county, I think Richard dealt with them. I didn't have much to do with it once I got across the road. But on the other side, I met with them, and we went into that, and we were told of that. I assume they applied the same standards over here, but I was not connected.
and I'm saying, we want to have that same kind of exchange. That's what we expected to have today, where comprehensive planning comes, and it would be, I mean, very, very important, if that's the policy you've had in the past, for you to say, you know, these are the black people of the county, except in this case, you got even more to say. They've been involved in redistricting, they've drawn a proposed plan, sit down and talk with them, and come up with a plan that they can be satisfied with. I mean, why shouldn't that be done? And anticipating, I mean, a response that there's no reason why that shouldn't be done, why don't we talk now about setting up that process?
Let's see what Robert has to say. He's been
No,
told
okay,
again.
okay.
Can we set up that process right now? Because that's what would have happened right today at 1 o'clock if you all hadn't circumvented.
I would see no benefit in it. I was hoping, man, if you've got time, come over here or send somebody.
He's employed by you.
Yes, and we'd have to pay him extra
Well,
to
I
do
mean,
that
by
too.
these people here.
Why would you see no benefit in it?
Because we've got two plans trying to work together. I say, if he comes over one, then we can sit down and talk about which one you're gonna use. The board of supervisors is ultimately the ones who's gonna set the plan. It's their responsibility under the law.
We saw the benefit in the school redistricting, right? Because you recommended it.
I recommend it, yes.
So why don't you see the same benefit in the supervisory redistricting?
I see them as being two different things. It's like apples and oranges, as you said a while ago. Two different things.
No,
Now,
they're
you
both
are, they
different.
different. How are they different?
How they different, they go through the districting process.
I got two people asking me questions.
The other one was black. The other body, the school body was black, and he saw fit to intervene there, and this one is white.
I
And he
think
wanted the black
The county
input.
is majority black. The school district represents people who are majority black, right? What is the difference? If you're talking about input, you're talking about benefiting from that input, what is the difference?
School boards are less important to them than the supervisor districts. That's the difference.
I have to agree with you.
I say to you all, not to us, but to you all, because they don't have a public school system.
So school boards are less important than supervisors. In what way is that true?
Not less important than concern me that, because I've never been involved with school boards. I've never represented them except just like one occasion or two, but I've been representing the board of supervisors for a long, long time.
So you're less concerned about black folks controlling school boards than you are black folks controlling boards of supervisors. Is that it?
That's a little hard.
That's what it sounds like.
That's a little
It's a little
hard.
hard.
Why don't you explain it? You know, we're just trying to understand what is the difference. That process you gave as an example, it was an exemplary process to you. We basically brought comprehensive planners in, and you said, you know, most of the people involved in the school district, most of the children, whatever you said, you'll be on the table, are black. So go down, talk to them, and come up with a plan that the black community can be satisfied with. And we're saying you have the same situation here with the county. You have the same situation. And we want the opportunity for that same kind of input up front before comprehensive planner starts drawing a plan. You
Yes,
know,
Gary,
what
I
do
told them
you,
this morning, essentially the same thing I told them when they had the school matter. I told them that had to stay within the law, had to give you all the blacks at least as much as you got under the current system. And we weren't trying to undermine, we knew you had to have 3 districts that's going to be majority black. I don't think we said anything, I didn't say anything I wouldn't be happy for you here if you'd been right there with me. And I didn't do it for the purpose of deceiving either.
What
but
are
I'm
you,
still
what are your
talking
questions?
about having that opportunity, setting up a process where comprehensive planners, with the people on this redistricting committee and the supervisors can have a session where we have input into that process, and they will work to come up with something that we can be satisfied with. We want to have that process set up, and like I said, today, right now, that would have happened. And that was our understanding. Now it didn't happen, and we still would like that opportunity.
I can't believe that you all felt that I said comprehensive planners would be here today. But I had no idea they were going to be here today. I knew we were going to talk to them, but they had already told me how busy they were.
We're assuming that they weren't going to be here today, assuming they were. Setting all of that aside, the specific question that Ms. Carey has put on the table is that she has asked you to set a time when we all can come back with you and comprehensive planners and discuss what would be an appropriate and satisfactory solution to the redistricting issue. So the question she's asking is, let's set a time, and that's what you need to respond to at this point. Let's talk about when and at what time and where would be the most effective way to have this process, right? Isn't that the question? So when would that be?
Oh, I can't answer. I don't know.
When you get the
why
board
can't you?
opportunity, when you get the board opportunity, they can't on their mouth, they can't on their mouth.
Not this one, I have to
They
go,
can't limit it.
I have to go to the doctor in Memphis on Monday.
Well, how about this weekend?
You know,
How about middle of the week next week?
you just have to look at my calendar, I can do it.
Are you gonna be here for next week's Board of Supervisors meeting?
If there is one.
No, it's not gonna be one to the first.
I don't know if I'll be here or not, but I'll try to.
I would like to ask one specific question, and that is, when is the Board of Supervisors gonna call a public meeting to hire somebody to deal with redistricting? Because it's obvious, our attorney has told you all that you have not had a public meeting on this matter, and we would like to know, when are you all gonna hold a public meeting to hire somebody? And the next thing we would like to know is, where is the contract that comprehensive planners, I know you don't hire people to spend taxpayer money without something in writing, just word of mouth ain't no good. So we would like to know, where is the contract, how much money is gonna be paid to these people, and when can you call a public meeting to hire somebody to do redistricting in Tallahatchie County? I don't see any reason us sitting around here studying, beating around the same little thing in the Board of Supervisors. Someone
We don't
wants
have
to
to
say
call
something,
for the meeting, those hires, we don't have to, we don't have to call for the meeting to employ someone to help. No need for that at all.
She did.
But no,
we're not gonna have a chance to get in.
Oh, yes, you are.
Into the hiring process of Tallahatchie County.
no, you,
When taxpayer dollars being expended.
and you look at it,
So, are you aware of a law that says that 60 days prior to an election, the lines cannot be altered, and therefore we're gonna have to run or not run under the present lines?
I can't say I knew the exact law, but I've been disturbed by the fact that we're not making progress.
And is it fair to say that you are going to?
So why didn't you all draw a line?
Isn't it fair to say that your deploy here, or the consensus of this board is to carry this election over 3 or 4 years like you did in '83, to sit there freely for 4 or 5 years?
I have no such plan in my mind, I don't believe they do either.
You did if you didn't draw the lines, or don't get a plan together and accept our plan that's already together prior to.
You all not in any position to complain about that. Your plan came in several weeks after, later than you
But you
promised.
still
We
don't
do
have that.
not,
Just
wait,
don't
we need to
Yes,
clear,
Mr. Beach has had something.
we need to clear this issue up. There is no statute or law in the world, outside of Mississippi, in the world, that says we had to give you a redistricting. I mean, what we did was because these people were concerned about the elections and because they're good citizens of this county. There's no law. On the contrary, the Board of Supervisors has a legal responsibility to redistrict, to keep these lines within compliance with the Constitution and the Voting Rights Act. That's a law.
I'm with you.
We have no responsibility, and therefore we can take no fault. We bear no fault in this process lagging behind. Now, you say you're concerned about the process. Why didn't you all start redistricting? I mean, you've had months to do it.
We did.
Counties throughout the state have had plans up before the Department of Justice for months.
Some have, and some are just scrambling like we are, trying to get ready.
That's right, but some have, and you could have, couldn't you?
I don't believe so. I think we had so many things thrown in front of the board that it's delayed, put it off, just wait a little while, that won't come, we won't have to do that. We've had that, so many short postponements of short duration. But we've got in a time where we didn't plan to. We expect to put a plan in operation at the end of March. And got letters to that effect, and they said, no, I can't give you the figures yet.
You received your figures when all the other counties in the state received theirs, didn't you?
I assume we did. I'd have to ask Mr. Reed.
That would be the first week of February, Mr. East.
But I must
We didn't have
say,
any.
well, let the
He
clerk.
did, right?
I hadn't received any figures yet because I'm not in the business of redistricting. I think Mr. Taylor got the figures, and he may can tell you when he got the figures. But while I'm speaking, Mr. Whitney, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I see this as, we're going to redistrict. Bottom line, we're going to redistrict. Whether you all do it, whether the comprehensive planners does it or whether the federal courts does it. We know we're gonna redistrict. Now, obviously, the board's not gonna receive your plan. And obviously, you're not gonna receive the comprehensive planner's plan. So I see us spinning our wheels and going right back into a lawsuit of which we cannot afford and I oppose.
Exactly. And that's what I'm
Bill,
really begging for.
Would it be too much, and I'm going to suggest this, would it be too much to ask that comprehensive planners and your demographer, whoever they may be, sit down with the plan and come up with a plan that we can all live with? Because we have got to get this thing approved. No alteration of supervised districts or precincts take effect within 2 months of an election. That's July the 19th. May the 20th is the deadline, as I understand it, is the recommended deadline to submit to the Justice Department. And that is before we got to have public meetings, we got to have a plan, we got to have facts, we got to have figures. And I see time running out. And I don't want to see this county in another lawsuit of which you and I cannot put the bill much longer. It's taxpayers' money, your money and mine. And I don't like to see this in a lawsuit. But I don't like this beating around the bush. Let's lay it out on the table and get both sides together at this table right here or some table and thrash it out and come up with the plans and follow the guidelines. And that's all I got to say.
That's all we have.
Publicly done. I say right here in the courtroom. The court is not public. I don't know what is.
I mean, it's the same thing that we've been saying, having an opportunity to have input into comprehensive planning process.
Elected someone like you've done this morning, and not at 1 o'clock, we don't have anybody.
Not legally.
Legally, and the class action should be considered based on that.
Well, I think we should come up with some dates right now and call him,
We'll wait.
and we can see what dates he would be able to be here. The sooner, the better. Because time really is of the essence in more ways than one. I mean, the deadline that has to be met. But secondly, we're not going to let that happen. You know, what was just described earlier about you being able to hold over in office because you have not come up with a plan when you've had the opportunity to do it. And, you know, as I said before, these citizens don't want to have a lawsuit. But if they have to file a lawsuit to get the county to do what has to be done, they'll have to do it. And time is critical on the filing of that lawsuit as well. I mean, we're playing with no more than maybe a week or two when we need to get into court to move this, if you're not going to do it. So can we come up today with some dates when we can get together and have this exchange and call comprehensive planners right now, today, and set that time, that meeting, and come and have the kind of work session that was suggested? I don't see any reason for us to delay. We can do this right now.
We didn't want to delay. You just find that the correspondence I've sent out, everything I've done is said, let's get this thing so they didn't give us enough time, first of all. We didn't have enough time.
Deal with her
Can we
suggestion,
just look at
Just deal with
calendars
her.
and come up with some
Well, let's
dates?
deal with it. Let's deal with it. Let's set some dates and make the phone calls,
I mean,
3:15.
I'd like to begin with
Before
tomorrow.
the 20th, you know.
I understand.
What's your deadline before we got to be in court?
Quite frankly, I would have felt comfortable filing today.
Okay, well, we don't want our deadline to pass the court before something is done. We need to do something.
Let's focus on dates and make the phone call. Let's set some 3
Can we
dates.
get
or 4
together
days.
tomorrow?
And I prefer this evening. We is running short of time for doing what we got to do, and that's filing a lawsuit. You know, and the deadline is on the 20th. So now we trying to stop what you all
We're
trying to
going to
do.
get a lawsuit, but if we do, we just that just end everything, we couldn't go home and wait for the
That's what we asked. Why do you want to do that? Why don't you answer the question?
Set some dates, call comprehensive plans and get the ball going.
Can we do it tomorrow?
Well, I said, don't know, I was told to speak to the board supervisor, or the board supervisor on this matter of redistricting. I was not given any dates about meetings.
You've got the 5 supervisors right here. They're not part of the plan.
Do you want?
Let me ask the board supervisor, if they can't talk about them waiting here for years, and not here for now, do each and every individual want a lawsuit? Do you want a lawsuit? Okay. Ms. Harder, do you want a lawsuit? Okay, well, y'all see what needs to take place. Ain't no sense to
We're talking individual.
It's coming up with the day. Can we meet tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Can we meet Tuesday?
I just don't know what my calendar is. I'll meet with you as soon as
Can
possible.
you look at your
Can you
calendar
look at your
now?
No,
calendar?
I don't care. No,
Can you call your
Or
office?
your office?
hang on the wall over there.
Let the jury settle down. He can meet with the jury.
Tomorrow.
That suggestion is a good one. I mean, and I want to set a record that we are trying to do this. I mean, we've walked this far. If we were gonna go into court, we never should have, you know, if we were going to file a lawsuit and not care about trying to work this out, we never would have gotten this far. So we may as well walk these few extra steps in it. Can we get together on Tuesday?
I'm sure I won't be available Tuesday. Now, I don't have to be here, I think the board won't be here, but I don't know what that situation is. And I'll do my level best to get them here sometime next week. We'll have a meeting where you get a few people here we keep on track, so there won't be too many of us. You know, we
I have a
can't.
problem with level best, because I thought we had an agreement that we were gonna meet at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and we would like to clarify and be precise, so there can be no misunderstanding. It'd be very easy for you to call your office. Lawyers do that all the time when they get in front of a judge, and the judge says, I want to set a specific time for you all to be here, and you say, I'm not sure of my calendar. The judge says, call your office. You go out into the chambers, you call your office, and you find out when you're available. And then we can all do that. I mean, everybody here will know today, therefore, exactly when it is agreed upon that we can meet. And it's real simple to do if we're dealing in good faith and there's goodwill to actually accomplish the result. And there's questions, now we do the same thing we did on Monday. It takes about a half an hour or 45 minutes to pull teeth till we get to the point that we actually set a date and a time and a location. And I'd like to cut through that and say, let's just do it. You can call your office, then we can call comprehensive plans. All we have to do is have some projected, that's right, some projected alternative dates.
Well, I'm not gonna pass that by. Would it be helpful if your man and our man got together before we get anything further? Would that help
They
something?
can get together right here to get at least the basic input, and, I mean, they know how to do this. They can do this in one day. They can meet with community, they can work, and then they can come back at the end of that day with something. They can do that.
We pressed on this morning about getting back soon as possible. I think we're gonna have to take somebody else if we're pushing that hard. I think we're gonna have to come up with somebody who doesn't know as much as he knows about redistricting.
Yes, that was basically my suggestion before was get the experts. I'm not an expert, I'm not a demographer. I have problems with figures and percentages and that type of thing. But I believe that the experts could get together. I just know they can and come up with something. Because it's going to kind of be like a marriage, whether we agree with it or not. It's going to be like a marriage. You got to give a little and I got to give. I got to give a little. The wife's got to give a little, the husband got to give a little. Some are smoother, some are not. But we are, when I say we, I'm talking about all. The Tallahatchie County is two split right now. We got to have something to draw us together and get this plan, some plan through. Because let me say again, and I'm looking at it from the circuit clerk's point of view, only circuit clerk and a taxpaying citizen. before, and Mr. Whitten can bear me out on this, before, under the plan that we had that we're under now, as you know, it came through a federal court. The federal judge gave me 30 days. The county has never been redistricted in the history of the county. Gave me 30 days to get everybody together. I begged and pleaded and almost cried. Judge said, I don't want to see the circuit clerk. Mr. Turnage and Mr. Whitten went back to the judge. Am I telling like it is? Went back to the judge and he consented to give us the extra 30 days. And I see maybe that's where we're headed now. Maybe he's going to give us, if it goes that far, and I pray to God it doesn't go that far. But if it does, him giving the circuit clerk 15 days, 20 days, or 30 days to get everybody where they're supposed to be and not have mass confusion on election day. And that's what we had before. We did the best we could do with Mr. Gardner, all the boards of supervisors coming in and citizens coming in and sitting down and us trying to get the books together and get them right. But I just believe that as many intelligent people as we got in Tallahatchie County that we can come up with something that everybody can live with. I don't mean that everybody's going to like it. That's never going to happen, folks. It's just never going to happen. But I believe that we can come up with something that we can live with. Now, Richard Gardner and I may not agree on everything, and we don't, but we are friends because we communicate, and he understands me and I understand him. That don't mean that we agree on everything. We're not ever going to agree on anything, but we can compromise. He can give some, I can give some, and we can come up with something. I believe we can do that in this county. I really do.
So you would agree that we should set some dates, get everybody to the table, and let's get the job done?
I merely made the suggestion that whoever your demographer is, with your plan, get with the Board of Supervisors, demographer and experts, and y'all come up with some kind of plan. And yes, dates are very vital. Dates are important because I understand that the latest date that the justice has recommended is May 20th. To get it to them by May 20th.
And today is May 10th.
Today is May 10th.
So we need to set some dates when we're going to get together.
I think that is obvious without being stated.
That's what we want to do right now. Right, so why can't we do that? Why don't we do that?
I have called the comprehensive planners and finally got to talk to Mr. Gates. And he said that, he first said he couldn't come. And I said, well, let me see if I can get Mr. Hardy. He said, well, you can't get Mr. Hardy, but I'll get him for you later on. And I kept talking to him, and finally he said, well, I can come over there. I got to go to Franklin County on Monday and I guess Tuesday. I can come over there and be there at 10 o'clock, and I may be able to bring Mr. Hardy with me. I'll be there at 10 o'clock unless you call me and tell me not to show up. Then spoke to Ms. Carey, and she said that you all agreed to it, people she represents, unless around sometime Monday morning she calls and asks us to cancel it and set another time. So the meeting is on unless I hear from you.
Which day now?
Wednesday, whatever the Wednesday is.
15th of May?
15th at 10 o'clock in the morning, right here.
In this courtroom?
Right here.
The Board of Supervisors will be here? So it's going to be a meeting of the community, the planners, and the Board of Supervisors?
The Board of Supervisors will not be in session unless, I'm saying reason they will just be here, or to make themselves available with it. I don't get any business to attend to.
This would be big.
Well, but this would be the business of the meeting, would be this discussion, right?
Yes, but I don't know would you expect anything out of the Board of Supervisors on that day?
But at least if it's a formal meeting, anything that they wish to do could be done.
Well, we just adjourned it. It'll cost us $200-300, but we just adjourned it. Not trying to avoid the expense of it.
And I might say that the only reason I would call and say that Wednesday is not an appropriate date is that Jerry Wilson has a conflict at that time. I was unable to contact him today. No one knows of a conflict, but until we speak with him directly, we cannot be sure. And I can do that tomorrow.
That satisfactory, everybody? Yes. So we'll see you Wednesday.
Let me turn this thing on. There.
See y'all.
91, and this is after the Board of Supervisors meeting is over. And did you have a discussion with the attorney, John Whitten, during the time this meeting took place?
We had discussing while we were waiting for Ms. Carey to come back from trying to get some information from Mr. Wilson. And
so that was at the end, basically at the end of the day, after most of the meeting had taken place?
Yes, it was.
And what was the substance of that conversation?
The question was asked to Mr. Whitten, what was the fear of electing a black person to the Board of Supervisors? And he was asked, he said, this is my personal opinion.
This is Mr. Whitten speaking?
Mrs. Whitten.
The board's attorney?
The board's attorney.
Right.
He said that he didn't feel that there was a black person in the county that was qualified enough, that had enough education to sit on the board and keep the taxes down. That was his precise word.
What else did he say, if any?
And he said there was some people he probably could work with. One, he pointed to one individual that he might could work with, and he said that, you know, I don't really know much about you, talking to myself. He said, but as a whole, he just didn't see a black person in the community.
And who did he point to as the individual he thought he could work with?
Mr. Richard Gardner.
Okay. And who is Mr. Richard Gardner, for the record?
He is a member of the Tallahatchie County Redistricting Committee. He's also second vice president of the NAACP, and he's a commissioner of Charleston.
He's an election commissioner or a city councilman?
City councilman.
City councilman from Charleston?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that Mr. Whitten said that you can recall?
No, I asked him questions like about the board. You know, some of the job the board has been doing the last 10 years. I questioned him. I said, if they're so qualified, how can they can spend $91,000 of money fighting us? And he said, I can agree they wasted money. He said, I agree they wasted. But, you know, that was their decision. So I said, well, you're telling me that if a black person is on the board, that we can waste that kind of money. I said, we go to school, we get an education, and we get the same education, and we're not qualified to sit on the board as supervisor. He said, I'm not saying that you're exactly not qualified, but he said, I just don't see a black person in this community that has enough education to do that. That was his conversation.
Thank you. You got all that?
Yes, sir.
You ought to really consider that 9 o'clock on Wednesday. For now, we'll pick at one. Leaflets, the way you did.
9 o'clock on Wednesday?
Yeah, for a whole hour. You know, keep the pressure up on them.
You know, they done put
They're having a meeting at 10, so
I better go to Jacksonville over this, so
do the
stay there.